As a club vice president education, what do you do to handle a conversation with a member whose lateness has become notorious? As an area director, what do you do and how do you handle a conversation with a club president and his officials that are not doing what they're supposed to do to be in true service for our members? As a division director, how do you handle the conversation with your team members who are clearly not putting members at the center of all their actions? Do you choose to sweep it under the rug like many would do? And rightly so, because having delicate and sensitive conversations is not a given. It is an art and a science at the same time, and it's something that is gained with experience. Experience and style and tact are the hallmarks of the person we've invited today to walk us through the hallways of handling this type of conversations. Because this person, if we're in the martial arts, we would say this person has a black belt. I think he has the highest level uh, in our organization of managing this type of conversations. And who better than him to take us through them today? Ladies and gentlemen, dear Toastmasters, dear leaders, welcome to today's monthly Mastering the Art of Handling Delicate Conversation with your team members. But today is a day like no other because we are having a person like no other to take us through this topic. But before we do that, we invite you to select the language channels that that are most convenient to you. So we do have interpretation French to English and English to French. We invite you to select the channel that will help you follow this training to the letter. Bonsoir, chers Toastmasters, chers leaders. Bienvenue à cette formation mensuelle TLI. Nous allons parler de maîtriser l'art d'avoir des conversations délicates avec son équipe. Avant d'introduire notre invité spécial, nous allons vous inviter chacun à choisir le canal d'interprétation en français si vous êtes francophone pour pouvoir suivre, étant donné que notre formateur parlera principalement en anglais. That said, I'll come back to you. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to join me in welcoming somebody you know, but that you don't know, and that I'm inviting you today to discover. Because this person is like a treasure box. When you open it, you keep seeing a lot of treasures, 1,001 things that will be useful to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming a DTM, a past district director, Dr. Abayomi Aisemoju. Doctor, good evening and welcome to this month's TLI session.
Good evening, Gaston. It's a real pleasure to be with the District 130, the newest district in Toastmasters International, again to rub minds with fellow Toastmasters. By way of an icebreaker, perhaps I should just say one or two things about myself. I became a Toastmaster in 2012. At that time, I was almost retired already, having gone through practically the entire course of my career professionally. And then I learned about Toastmasters, and I was interested enough to want to join. As it happened, Toastmasters was introduced to me as something that would help me improve my leadership and communication skills. And incidentally, I'd already been in very high positions of leadership, both in the corporate world as well as in the spiritual world. And in addition, I'd also been privileged to have been giving public speeches, sometimes addressing thousands of people at the same time. And yet, I joined Toastmasters. And with that background that I've given to you, I can tell you that joining Toastmasters has made such a profound difference in myself, in my skills, in my abilities, when it comes to leadership and communication. And so it is again this background that we're going to rub minds this evening on, I was going to call it the delicate subject of the art of having delicate conversations with your team. The art of having delicate conversations with your team. To put this in perspective, this art is one of the arts in leadership for which people seek help. For example, there was the Stanford University study that showed that when chief executive officers seek help to improve upon themselves, the number one thing for which they seek help is along the lines of what we shall be discussing today. And secondly, whether you know it or not, a lot of time is spent by each one just dealing with issues that prove to belong to the class of what would require delicate conversation. By way of another icebreaker, I'd like us to each one, using one word, even if it is with the article. I know this will apply to French in particular, the use of articles. When you hear delicate conversation, I'd like you to put in the chat box, using one word at a time, what comes to your mind? What do you connect that with? What memories does it bring? What feelings do you have? What understanding do you have? Using one word, put in the chat box whatever comes to your mind. I'm watching the chat box, and I'm sure Gaston is watching too. Let's have it. Delicate conversation. We're waiting. Wonderful. Can you all see that? Humility. L'apport des joueurs. What's that, Gaston?
Thank you so much.
No, l'apport des joueurs. What is that? I'm reading the chat now.
Yeah, la peur d'échouer is the fear of failure.
Oh, très bien. Stress. Excellent. worrisome, sensible. Ah, is that French or English? Conversation sensible. Hmm? Yes? Ethics. Excellent. Any other things that come to mind? Yes. French. Somebody wrote French there. Is that what to associate with? Opposition. Excellent. When you have opposition at an intense level, what do you call that? Hello? Can you all hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. I want it to be, give and take, exchange. I'm reading the chat box and questions are coming to my mind. And I want us to deliberate on some of these things that I'm seeing there. When you have opposition and it's very intense, what would you call that? Under what circumstances do you tend to have opposition that is very intense? What do you call that normally? Exactly. I can see the word conflict. Conflict, conflict, conflict. The word conflict will always come to mind when you hear about delicate conversations. I can see divergence, differences in points of view, in interests. Confrontation, another interesting one, which you would have when you have conflict. People have fear of conflict, just like they also have fear of confrontation. Negativity. Something negative has happened. People's attitude may be negative. Even the process of having a delicate conversation may have delicate consequences, negative consequences. Toxic, yes. In conflict, anger may flare. There could be aggression, fighting, and all that has to come under what we want to look at today when we talk about the art of holding delicate conversations with your team. The next thing I want us to do, we are all Toastmasters. I'd like us again to think about the type of conversations that tend to be delicate. The type of conversations that tend to be delicate. You may want to draw upon your experience as a Toastmaster in the course of your Toastmasters career. From what different people will have to say, we shall then see how certain categories of conversations tend to be delicate or prove likely to be delicate. So this is what I want us to dwell upon now. Perhaps to do this, we can let people indicate, those who want to share with us, what in their experience is the type of conversation that has been found delicate or that is most likely to be delicate especially using our experience in Toastmasters to make it more relevant to us. Gaston, shall we ask people to raise their hands if they want to say, and then we can, yes, I can see a hand up there. That is Paul Abe. Yes, let's hear him. Unmute yourself and tell us your experience.
Good evening once again from Nigeria, and thank you for facilitating this topic. For me, it was right on time because I'm dealing with a delicate scenario right now.
Oh, and, that's a good one.
As an area director, I realized that for a passionate person and somebody who likes to be done with one project to face the rest of other stuff, it occurred to me that the timeline and the expected delivery from a particular leader wasn't met. And over again, I have tried to talk to him. Everything seems to not just to be on the standstill. And Toastmaster is just 1 year. And we're running almost half the year. Nothing has been done. So 2 days ago, I wrote him a small text telling him I'm not too comfortable with the result I'm getting and his style of leadership. That is affecting the overall goal. And that I highlighted what was expected of him, and none of them has been accomplished. So he replied back by telling me that, well, he empathized with me. He's sorry for my frustration, that I can appreciate that. But actually, I've used the Toastmasters CRC form of evaluating him, that I'm just expressing my personal feelings. So I just laughed over it, and I got some, opinion from one or two other persons. Okay, let it slide low and let's keep pushing. Since it's a Toastmaster thing, people have this assumption that it's a Toastmaster thing. I believe that you opted for that office, you chose to serve, and I expected you to do something on time because it's affecting other persons. So it's quite an uncorresponding way of leadership, and I wish that all of us in Toastmasters would appreciate it. Yes, we're not paid, but we're expected to deliver at a certain time. That's how. That's why I just said this. I joined this link 15 minutes to, if not 20 minutes to, put all my system and gadget because I really want to know how best to go about this. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. That's a very good one that you've given us right at the beginning of this exercise, because it already brings out a lot of things that make it necessary for us to be artful in our approach to delicate conversations. Don't forget that when you hold a conversation, it is very important for you to get the right results. And you must take responsibility whether you get the right result or you do not get the right results. And what we shall be dealing with this evening is really to do with how to get the right results. And before I've noted everything you've said, but before I call on another person, I want us to note that the person with whom Toastmaster Paul Abe wanted to have a conversation actually reminded him of the wisdom of using the Toastmasters recommended method of comment, recommend, and comment. I say this because in every interaction between two people or between people generally, if you don't understand human nature, intrinsic human nature, and make use of that knowledge, you're not likely to get the best results. And Toastmasters, the things we are taught in Toastmasters, they are based on what gets you results when you take into consideration human nature. It's not just Toastmasters that says, it's not just in Toastmasters that you find better results using the recommended approach. It's with all people, all human beings, but we'll get to that in more detail in a minute. Thank you for that, for volunteering to bring that up. We'll come back to that in the course of the. Now, any other person who has raised his or her hand would like to hear a variety of experiences. We've heard from an area director. Yes.
So we sent an area director, we're inviting the others to intervene. Like you all know, these are meant to be very interactive sessions. There's no PowerPoint presentation here. There's nobody coming to pontificate to you. The idea here is to have an exchange with this seasoned leader whom you have an opportunity today to have in front of you, to tap into his experience and also share your thoughts. So, Dr. Abayomi, I have a question that has been sent to me inbox.
Yes.
It's asking, managing this type of conversations could prove to be a double-edged sword.
Yes.
How do you ensure that you find the right middle?
Oh, all right.
And maybe before you come in, this is just a reminder. If you're here, you are a division director, you're an area director, you're a club president, you're a VP, please kindly encourage your teammates to join. Kindly encourage your area directors, your division directors, your vice president, education and club presidents to join, because these are conversations that are very important for us all, for our leadership in Toastmasters. And rather than sweeping the problem and putting it under the rug, knowing that no problem ages well, we'll end up having clubs that are not performing and having members that cannot stay because we cannot retain them, because we are not giving them the experience, the membership experience they need. So please, Doctor, go ahead and provide an answer to that question that has been asked. Managing delicate conversations could be a double-edged sword. Well, how do we find the right middle?
Yes.
Please put your answers, your questions in the chat. While Doctor is answering this one, we're going to put the other questions to him. Donc, vous pouvez dans le chat mettre vos questions. Pendant que le docteur répond à celle-ci, nous allons lui apporter d'autres questions que vous allez lui poser, soit dans le chat, soit en inbox pour qu'on puisse les lui poser. Doctor, over to you.
Thank you very much. In fact, the overall purpose of this exercise is just to be that much knowledgeable, skillful, and informed about the various things we shall be talking about, that you will always, or at least most of the time, find the right middle. When you're doing delicate conversation, you go with so much that you have been able to acquire as to what to put to use in the course of that conversation. And you'll be modifying, adjusting, depending on what is happening in the very process of the conversation. Because you'll be equipped with just how to know how to veer away from that direction in which things are approaching a catastrophic end and bring things back to course. how far to go, how far not to go, so that you will end up in that safe middle. So it's a question of the application of the necessary knowledge and skills and attitude, which will bring you to that middle. Many people do not find it because they either do not have the skills or they do not apply them properly. So what those skills are, what those measures are, they are part of the things we shall be dealing with in the course of the evening. Are there any other things in the chat? Let's see.
Yes, another question as well.
Yeah.
The question is, I have been passive about the perceived poor behavior from one of my team members, hoping and
Yes.
praying, but it has gotten worse. How is it too late for me to have this conversation with them now?
Well, okay. Is it written there? I can't see it.
No, someone sent it to me inbox.
Oh, okay. Please, can you repeat that? Repeat that, please. Just
I
conversation
have
with.
been hoping and praying that the perceived bad behavior from a team member changes, but nothing has happened. Is it too late for me to have the conversation with them now?
Okay. Okay, thank you. One of the things you will learn about delicate conversations is that you do not put them off. You should hold conversations as soon as possible, because when you do that, you will nip a lot of things in the bud. The longer you put off the conversation, the more challenges, the more difficulties, the more maybe even traumatic the conversation would be when you now choose to do it. When you say it's now too late, or is it you're asking the question whether it's too late, are you now thinking of, because we started the mandate in July, so you had July, August, September, October, November, halfway through. Strictly speaking, if that is your criterion, no, it is not too late. It is not too late for a number of reasons. One, you'll be surprised sometimes if people are receptive to whatever is pointed out to them, and they really help to know you and the person concerned. You really help to know the way forward to achieve the desired goal. Sometimes you'll be surprised how much energy this person may now be able to bring into the task. Now convinced and motivated and equipped with knowledge and skills, I can still cover a lot of lost ground before the end of the mandate. But apart from that, one of the reasons why you hold delicate conversations, the results are one thing in terms of goals achieved, talking about the task in hand, but there are also very important opportunities in holding delicate conversations for the growth and development of both the one, you, the team leader, and the one with whom you are holding the conversation, And so you would benefit at any stage in time for you to hold that conversation, because the two of you may emerge wiser and better from it as people. And the relationship between you and that person, if the conversation has been well held, can only improve. So there will be gains along those lines. And in addition, being strictly considering whether it's late or not late for the mandate, I've answered that question with a categorical no, it is not late. So ahead of you is a lot of opportunity for benefit, whether concerning the task at hand or for you as a person, and also for the person with whom you want to hold the conversation. Personal growth, development, and maturing, and better interpersonal relationships. Those are things that await you to gain. So don't fall short of it.
Don't fall short of it, because personal growth, also interpersonal relationships are important as a leader, be it now or in the future, because
Thank you.
Get built here, but they do get matured at other points in society, in business, and even some people get married. So
exactly.
Before we go to Area Director Paul, let me read the question in the chat. Paul, we're coming to you.
Okay.
We have Nassim Sharif, who is asking a question. I'll read it in French and I'll quickly translate it to you. Comment identifier le bon moment et le bon temps pour engager une conversation délicate afin d'assurer qu'elle aboutisse à des résultats constructifs pour l'équipe? How do you identify the right moment and the right tone to use during this type of sensitive conversation to ensure that it yields the results of building and it yields constructive results for the team?
Thank you. This is a very good question. Because for any conversation, you must consider the best time, the best moment, and the best place, the best forum, the best atmosphere in which to hold the conversation. As for time, for example, you always want to choose a time where you can have the full attention of the person concerned. When, with all calm, he can give you his attention. For example, if you want to discuss something with a club member and you are both preparing for a club meeting, calling him shortly before the meeting may not be the best time, because his mind may already be fixed on what's going to happen at the meeting. What you discuss with him there, if it's not well resolved, could even be disturbing to him as to how he performs at the meeting. So it would have been better to do this at a time when there's not likely to be anything immediate on his mind, and the conversation will not prove a threat to anything that is imminent. And of course, when tempers are high, when there's heat, between you and somebody else, it's not the best time. Because whatever you do then will be affected by the high temper, the anger, the hurt. You don't get the best results that way. Then, of course, knowing human nature, in terms of where or forum, it is always better to discuss with the person in private, not in the presence of other people, especially when it is not relevant for those people to be present. Because again, human nature is such that it will be difficult for him to take part in a conversation in which he has to now admit to negative things about him. He will see himself as being put in bad light in the presence of those who are there for the meeting and who do not really need to be present. So these are the things you should talk about, where you can have a person's full attention when he doesn't feel threatened by in the process of the discussion, and your entire approach, which we can go into more in the course of the evening, should be such that there's nothing threatening. It should always be a question of you and the person joining minds to try and find a solution to an issue that has arisen, even when it has to do with him as a person who is at the bottom of whatever it is that you are discussing. Each case will vary, be on its own merit, but these are some of the things that you must take into consideration in timing the meeting, in the way you hold it, and in who is present, who is not present, and your entire approach, that the one word you should not bring about anything that you will find threatening or even stressful. Almost all the skills about delicate conversations you will find have to do with don't evoke the stress response in anybody with whom you are holding a conversation. And there are so many pitfalls, which I'm sure we shall touch upon in the course of the evening. The ways in which we evoke the stress response. I'll make a note of that. If it doesn't come up on its own, then it's something I'd like to stress upon a little more later.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. I think we should not have this conversation in such a way that it elicits a stress other team member that we're speaking with. We have a follow-up question to this, but before then, let's take Area Director Paul. Paul, did you have a reaction? Was it a question? Was it...
Yes, he spoke before. Let's hear him.
Yes, Paul, please go ahead. We can't hear you. Can you unmute?
Okay, good. Once again, thank you. I hope I don't take much of this discussion, but it's very pertinent because I know that human nature is key. But in leadership school, we talked about knowing your leader. I know, for instance, from our farm, living close by, doctor, you don't like lateness. You're meeting 5 minutes after time. I see a lot of concern. It shows people are not really committed to that. And every leader have his style. Even communication, we have some people who communicate directly, and people who are indirect. Some people have it. So all these things put together is a whole skill that we needed to learn as leaders. But you see, invoking provocation might not, it can remotely commence from the person you're expecting to respond to an action. An assignment is given. Could you imagine, for instance, that a club is 6 months into existence now, doesn't have an account where new members can pay their money and somebody is responsible, and you have been talking to that person over and over again? That action alone has invoked in you, the leader, stress, because you can't get new members to pay in their money. So you call for a meeting, the person is not available because of his own time, which is understandable. But I felt that in life, we commit to something, and leadership is sacrifice. Nobody is paid in Toastmasters. So the moment you accept to serve is a lot of sacrifice. So you look at your scheme of things and design the time that is most convenient for you. You call at this point, if you had missed 1 or 2 appointments, you provide for the next appointment. So the next thing will be that somebody might be reporting you to the next person, You now become a community case. That again can provoke stress on this other person. So it's a whole, pot of potpourri in Toastmaster, but God will see us through.
No. But again, very, very interesting points you have raised there. And it's a point on which I'd like to dwell a little more. One of the causes, yes, you've spoken about how a member who is not the leader now could do things that will provoke stress in the leader. If I got you right, am I right? Hello, Paul Abe. That's
yes.
okay. Yes. Okay. Good.
Well, in Toastmasters, everybody is a leader, so
exactly. You see, but again, I want to refer us back to something I said before. You're talking of 6 months. Something has been delayed for 6 months. Now it's causing you stress as a leader. The question can arise, why did you not spot it earlier and do something about it? As we said, the earlier, the better, before it becomes something that is now causing you stress. So as a leader, you have to be on the lookout. And even at the beginnings of suggestions of something going the wrong way, can nip it in the bud. Secondly, just as you have the follower, if you like, being a possible cause, of this stress, the style of the leader or leadership is also a well-known contribution to these things that will now require delicate conversation later. And when whatever it is that has happened, that you say, oh yes, it is stressful, it's almost unbelievable. You as a leader, it is your responsibility to be able to manage what stress that thing is bringing to life in you. And that's why when we say you want to prepare for a conversation with somebody, one of the things you should do is to prepare your own self. In fact, the first and foremost thing you should prepare when you want to have a delicate conversation is to do with yourself. If you're already worked up and you are stressed, you are angered, if you like, write down many things, what you think about the person or the situation, to just let your frustration out on paper. But don't go to a meeting to have a delicate conversation with somebody, with you fuming and angry and letting out your stress on him. And remember my answer to an earlier question, that this thing about delicate conversation is an opportunity for you yourself to grow and develop and mature. It's a beautiful thing that we are afforded if we will approach it in this way. So your own self is the first point of preparation so that you can go to the meeting, not radiating that which can only bring out stress, non-cooperation, self-defense on the part of this person. He'll start fighting you, start defending himself against your accusation, your condemnation, your criticism. Then there's nothing delicate about the conversation anymore. It has become a fight, so to say, yes. I'm happy you brought up that point. Don't forget, here is the first responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for that answer. I think it was a detailed one for that matter. And thank you, Paul, for intervening and coming live to ask your question.
Yes.
Nous vous invitons à faire comme Paul. Si vous avez une réaction, si vous avez une contribution à faire, n'hésitez pas à lever la main. Nous allons vous passer la parole. Nous avons une question du Dédiv, Bokarissa Vadogo dans le chat. Dédiv, est-ce que c'est possible pour vous de poser votre question de vive voix? Est-ce possible? Dédiv Bokarissa Vadogo. So Bokarissa Vadogo is a division director and he has a question. Go ahead, sir. Hello.
Hello.
TLI.
Yes.
Ma
Posez en français.
Thank you.
Hein?
Thank you.
Voilà, ma question est la suivante. En tant que chef d'équipe, nous faisons face à des conversations délicates. Et surtout, souvent, on peut voir les résultats et voir que le niveau des résultats sont bas et que ce n'est pas satisfaisant. Alors, on veut faire savoir à l'équipe que notre niveau n'est pas satisfaisant et qu'il nous faut redoubler d'efforts. Mais il y a aussi quelque chose qu'on évite parce qu'on ne veut pas heurter les sensibilités en disant que les gens ne travaillent pas. Parce que souvent, les challenges sont souvent tellement élevés que malgré les efforts, ça ne bouge, les résultats ne bougent pas. Donc, c'est vraiment comment faire savoir à l'équipe que le niveau d'avancement n'est pas totalement satisfaisant pour les amener à aller de l'avant sans faire apercevoir que les gens ne travaillent pas.
OK. Merci beaucoup, Dédiv. Merci pour votre présence ce soir aussi. So, Dr. Abayomi, a division director, and long and short of it is, how do you have a conversation that recognizes the effort that has been done by your team members without making them feel that they are not working? So sort of results are there, but results are not yet where we want. How do we have a conversation with them that doesn't make them feel as though we are not recognizing the efforts that have been made?
Very good. First of all, the ideal situation in these conversations is for you to have the conversation with whoever is concerned as partners who want to achieve the same objective. Not as the one who is, looking down on the person, judging him or criticizing him and so on and so forth. But you bring the matter to the table in an objective manner, and working together, you will try and answer the questions. Here's where we are. Where should we ideally be? What can we do about it? Can we agree together on what to do to bring us to where we need it? You see, in the process of delicate conversation, do you know the word that you should avoid using? I want you to answer that question. One word which, as much as possible, you should avoid using. Do you know what it is? Any ideas?
We must avoid to use the word you.
Thank you.
The word you.
Thank you very much. You avoid using the word you. You don't go and tell anybody you didn't make the mark, you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, you are this, you are that. No. To avoid that, a person in a situation where you fall short, instead of saying, you did not make the mark, you can say, looking at the records, this is where we should be as a club, but this is where we are. You have not mentioned the person, you have not called him, you have not accused him. Yes, that is the way to go. That way, you can't offend him. He only sees himself as a partner and an ally with whom you want to work to achieve a common objective. If you approach your conversations in this manner, then you will not have the fear that you have now of offending somebody. It is in the choice of your approach, of your language, of the words that you use that you either offend or hurt, or you steer clear of all that and live a calm, neutral, positive atmosphere in which the best of everybody can blossom forth. So thank you for that question. With the right approach, you really would not have anything to fear.
With the right approach, you really do not have anything to fear. And we're learning a lot of things today. I think I personally learned that you need to avoid using you when
Yes.
you're having this type of delicate conversations. We have another question that is coming. The person sent it via private message. So
Yes.
the question, my team member is my friend, and they are not living up to expectations in Toastmasters. I do not want Toastmasters to come between myself and my friend. What do I do?
Good question. Good question. It brings two things to mind. Whenever you have a delicate situation or a delicate conversation to hold, this is why I said your first point of preparation is yourself. And in preparing yourself, the kind of things, such as you've mentioned now, should come out. In my feelings, in my emotions, oh, this is my friend. I do not want Toastmasters to come between me and my friend. So you have what you can call a bias, you have an interest, which you're trying to protect, may not allow you to do what should be done. And similarly, the person concerned may not be your friend. It may be somebody who is, in fact, in quotes, your enemy, somebody you don't agree with. That also has to be taken into consideration in your preparing to hold a delicate conversation. However, whatever the case may be, whether it's your friend or your foe, and you recognize the emotions that are there, which may not allow you to do what is needed. If nobody else can stand in your place and do the job, and you still have to do the job, then you are brought back to what we said earlier on about managing your own emotions and your own interests. And you'll find that if we use the principles that have been spoken about this evening, there will be nothing personal in your approach, even in trying to deal with the issue. It will be objective. It will be a matter of whether it's your friend or your foe, trying to jointly work at the achievement of a given purpose. And if this person is really your friend, there should be no reason why the need for you to work objectively towards the achievement of a good purpose should stand between you and him. But if you don't do it the right way, if you have to go and tell your friend, look, you've been slacking in your duties, what do you think you are doing? Of course, you're not likely, you might lose him as a friend. But with the right approach, not being personal, not being critical, not condemning, but just trying to get him to come along with you on the mission of the attainment of a worthy goal, that should not be a problem. That should not be a problem. So again, the approach is what is really important.
The approach is really important, and whether it's your friend or your foe, you need to have this conversation with, but choose the right time and the right place to have this conversation with them. We have a question from Valentina. Valentina has indicated she has a question.
Yes.
Valentina Somaya. Valentina, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Okay. Good evening, leaders. Good evening. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. So my question goes like this. What does a leader do when a team member holding a critical office refuses to do his job, even when you have tried every means possible to inspire and motivate the team member? Does the leader proceed to do his job, or so that the club doesn't suffer in that capacity? What does the leader do?
Thank you very much, Valentina. And Doctor, before you answer, please permit me remind our audience, remind our leaders that they can do like Valentina, they can do like Bukari Savadogo, they can do like Paul. Please raise your hands, indicate that you have a question, and you'll be given the opportunity to ask the question directly to Doctor. But you can also type in the chat or send it directly to me like some people have done, and we'll make it a duty to ask your questions to Doctor. We have the opportunity tonight to have a moving library. It is left unto us to make the most use of this minute, of this time we're spending with him to get the best of his experience as he's sharing with us. Over to you, Doctor, for your response to the question from Valentina.
Thank you very much. This is a very important question because it touches upon the issue of what a leader should do or should not do. True, leaders are expected, ideally, to get people to do what they have been appointed to do, rather than hurriedly, stepping in and doing the work for. That is not the ideal leadership. But you're talking about a situation where you've done everything to try and get this person to do his or her job, and it has failed. First of all, you have to examine yourself and see whether you've used the right approach, or maybe you've even asked somebody else to step in to try and help you, do what, talk to this person, or otherwise motivate him to change and do his job. But sometimes everything may fail. And this is where you can now go to the second line of approach. Don't forget that people can be changed. They can be changed. A person who is not performing, everything has been done to help, just will not perform. There's room for you to make a change. And it may be then the last resort that, okay, for the sake of the club or whatever organization it is, just to save the club from that, yes, you may just take that on. But of course, that person will not be there forever. Maybe the mandate is almost coming to an end. You hope that, look, a better person will be found to do that job as soon as possible. That would be the approach. It's not as if there's no room to change people or just let them go. Because it happens, this is real life. But before that happens, you want to be sure that you have used all the skills and methods that can help bring about movement in the right direction concerning this person. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And
Yes,
I've been smiling all along as you answered the question, and even asked Valentina, Toastmaster Valentina asked the question. Because, the advantage of that we have during exchanges like this is that we understand that the challenges we are facing as a leader in Toastmaster, in our club, in our area, in our division, are not unique to us, because I think so many people here could relate with the question Valentina asked, with the question Paul asked, with the question Bukari asked, and with the questions that we've been having in the conversation. So this is an invitation again to invite everyone to ask their questions either in the chat or reach out, raise their hands, and they'll be recognized to do so. So I'll now ask Arsene I'll now ask Arsene Woboyi, who's also indicated that he has a question to ask. Arsene, please unmute yourself and maybe come on video if you can and ask a question. Arsene, over to you. En français ou en anglais, c'est selon...
Oui, je vais aller en français, c'est plus simple pour moi. Déjà, merci pour l'opportunité que tu me donnes de poser la question. Je ne vais pas ouvrir ma caméra parce que je suis dans un endroit assez sombre et ça va pas apporter de value supplémentaire. En fait, ma question, ça va un peu dans le sens de celui de Valentine, hein. Nous sommes un plus jeune club qui a moins d'un an, bien qui aura bientôt un an. Les membres du bureau sont assez jeunes et ils sont convaincus par la méthode Toastmaster. Mais seulement, à chaque fois, il faut être derrière eux pour leur demander de faire des trucs. Ils semblent être engagés, mais le quotidien les rattrape. Dans ce genre de situation-là, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? Est-ce qu'on change le bureau? Est-ce qu'on continue avec le même bureau? Ou alors, on cherche de l'aide externe pour pouvoir discuter de façon vraie et prendre les décisions qu'il faut, qui peuvent faire mal.
OK. Merci, cher Arsène. Merci d'avoir posé la question. J'invite d'autres participants à faire comme toi, à lever leur main, à indiquer qu'ils veulent poser une question. Nous leur donnerons l'opportunité de poser la question, soit de vive voix comme vous l'avez fait, ou alors dans le chat. So, Doctor, his question is, they are a young club, but the club is facing commitment issues, especially from the club officers. What do you do in this case? Do you go the soft way or do you go the hard way to ensure that at least the club survives?
Thank you. There are two things that he asked. Do you change or do you go for external help? And I'm happy he asked this question or those questions. He is probably club president. Is that what he is?
Yes, he's a club president.
He's a club
Yes.
president. Yes. He's a very good example of where you should, in fact, get external help. Because as a club president, you yourself may not have the necessary experience and knowledge to make the necessary changes here. And this is where someone like your area director can come in. Someone like your area director who has more experience, who can analyze what is going on in your club, even including an analysis of you yourself and the contribution you may be making, even if inadvertently, to the situation of the club, and be able to advise you accordingly. And usually a more senior person would be such as the members are more likely to respond to and respect more than the person they consider their mate on the same level. So definitely, I wouldn't think you should start doing anything drastic until you've explored the help that you can get from somebody more experienced, more knowledgeable, more skillful, who may be able to prefer solutions to your situation. But of course, if everything fails, well, you may make changes, but you can make changes, and those you tell to take over may not be better if some fundamental things are not looked into. So I thank you for that question, because it brings out the opportunity or want to speak about seeking additional help in the effort to move the club forward? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for that answer. I think this is coming to sort of like also clarify to a lot of people what needs to be done in terms of like, what do you do when you have when you're a new club and your club officers are not forthcoming in terms of commitment. But now, what if the other persons you are to bring in are also the problem? That could be the question to ask. But that's not the question that have been asked by one of our participants who just sent in a text saying, you mentioned, it is often said that it is better to criticize in private and praise in public. When does this practice become counterproductive? Because praising in public a team member that is visibly and to the knowledge of everyone not doing what they're supposed to do can serve as a boomerang, because it can actually discourage those that are hardworking. So when does this practice of praising in public and criticizing in private becomes counterproductive?
Thank you. A very useful question again. Criticize in private, praise in public. And you have this person doing many things that are negative, that are not really helping. The principle that you would apply here is that if you praise in public, then that should apply to every other member of the team, not to this person alone. And your praise has to be objective and specific for whatever it is that the person has done that you really find to be good. So if he only does one thing, maybe in a month, that deserves praise, you may find others who will do 10 or 20 things that deserve praise. Yes, give them their 10 praises, their 20 praises, but this one who has done just one thing, you also praise him for the one he has done, and don't criticize any other person publicly. So that way, if anybody forms a wrong impression from what you are doing, it will be a wrong impression, because you would not have done anything wrong. You've praised all that is praiseworthy, and you have not criticized anybody publicly. Just make use of the uniform standard for everybody and keep to it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doctor. I mean, praise equally.
Yes.
If you praise everyone in public, do not criticize anyone in public. But now
Exactly.
this brings to my question, Doctor.
Yes.
You could put together a team for a project, for example. Bukari will come to you. You can put together a team, for example, for a project. You have 10 people. 2 people end up doing the job. And you know, in our very own Toastmasters culture of recognizing and rewarding everyone, when it comes time for recognition, we recognize the whole team, but it's 2 people who did the job. How do you have this type of delicate conversation with the 8 other people to say, hey, you know, you were 10 of you, 8 of you didn't do the job, 2 people did the job, and so I'm only publicly recognizing the 2 who did the job.
if your tradition or your role is to recognize teams, then you recognize the team. But everybody knows that in any team, the fact that the team has done well does not mean that everybody has contributed equally. But in a question of recognizing teams, if a team does well, recognize the team as having done well. You may have cause, maybe even as the leader of that team, to have had conversations with members of the team, or if it gets to the attention of somebody high up in the hierarchy, you could have had that also. Because I don't know it for there to be any system where you then condemn a team publicly. If the team does well, you recognize them. Those who need to be spoken to, they're spoken to either by the team leader or somebody that is higher than that. You can even find a situation whereby the team does well and the team leader himself may not have been the major contributor. Some superstars in the team may have the ones who shouldered the responsibility and got the team to achieve the goals. For such people who have done very well, if the system has a way of recognizing individuals, whether they're a member of a team or not, for what they have done, then such people should be recognized. For example, you know, in Toastmasters, we have Toastmaster of the Year. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Yes, Toastmaster of the Year. This person who is Toastmaster of the Year will belong to a club, an area, a division. The club is given the necessary praise as a club. The area is given praise as an area. The division is given praise as a division. But where we have made room for individual praises, then such a person will get his as an individual. You are never best, you're never the Toastmaster of the Year only because you are a member of a particular team. It's what you've done as an individual, even though you may be doing it also in working within your club, working within your area, or working within your division, or just doing things at a district level. We must allow ourselves to be guided by principles. Principles. And our principles should be such that they are fair and they leave room for people to enjoy the fruits of their labor. And when necessary, for them to have delicate conversations to try and help them along the path that is desired. So that's what I would say there. Yes.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We have a few minutes before we go. But before we go, I would like to invite Division Director Bukari Salvadogo, who had his hands raised, to ask his question. Bukari, go ahead.
C'est vraiment très intéressant.
Allez-y.
Alors, en tant que chef d'équipe, notre travail, c'est de continuer de motiver aussi l'équipe et chaque personne. Alors, la délicatesse, c'est surtout dans le cadre d'une conversation individuelle avec un membre de l'équipe, comment encourager, féliciter sans tomber dans la complaisance. Parce que souvent, on veut dire à l'intéressé que c'est bien, oui, on reconnaît les efforts, félicitations, mais on ne veut pas tomber dans la complaisance au risque que voilà, l'intéressé croit que tout est déjà rose. Voilà. Comment féliciter, encourager sans tomber dans la complaisance? Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Merci, cher directeur de division, pour cette question. Dear Dr. Abayomi, so how do you recognize effort or recognize achievements of your team members without being complacent? Because there are moments where we really want to recognize, but we don't also want to make them feel that what they've done is not enough. How do you recognize effort without being complacent, without lowering the standards?
Thank you. I think this is one of the major things we learn in Toastmasters. Evaluation. Commend, recommend, commend. If you do that, whatever needs to be pointed out in need of improvement will be pointed out. And the person being a Toastmaster should learn and know from that you should pay attention also to the recommendations as a way of showing you where you need to make improvement. This should be drummed into people so that they don't just go about thinking that they're good enough. But of course, if a person needs so much by way of recommendation, although you see mentioned the commendations in the evaluation, such a person is not likely to be the candidate for an award or for a prize. That way, you are not leaving room for him to think, oh, he's done, so well. You give him the necessary commendation, recommendation, and commendation. But if overall is not a star performer or a very good performer, it will not be the person you want to go and give a prize for doing so well. I think if you put all that in place, there's not much that you need to be worried about.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. But overall, our approach to everybody should be one of love and motivation, even when they're not doing so well. That wave of love and motivation is what is most likely to help them along the path to improvement.
We owe our team members a duty of care. And in whatever we do, we show love, we show care, we show concern. And that's going to make them even more productive and help in achieving the common objectives that we would have set for ourselves. We'll now move on to Paul Abbey, Area Director Paul. Please do unmute your mic and ask your question.
Okay, thank you once again. This is more like an observation. It might be a contribution as well too. The definition of a leader often is somebody who is able to influence people to do what they intended to do. Your job is just to see that you put it to them in a way that they get it done and everybody's happy about it. But I have come to appreciate, maybe because of this age and time we find ourselves, there's so much distraction. The process of recruiting leadership in clubs, I have the opportunity of having a member who told me join Toastmasters, so just to speak, not to lead.
To speak?
Just to speak. That's why he joined Toastmasters.
Okay, yes.
And invariably, he was the leader. And he said, no, Paul, I understand this job is so much on me. I can't do it any longer. I want to speak. I said, okay, no problem. We'll allow you to be speaking. We'll look for somebody. We're still looking for a person because the club is not so rich like that. But I think that people are, I don't want to use the word conscripted because I don't have a scientific proof, but looking at new era of leadership, so many people just they're just put in to fill the space. They are not desirous as. 8 years ago, when I joined Toastmasters, everybody is arriving at the meeting before meeting time. The DTM accused me sometime that her role she was supposed to play, because she came 5 minutes late, that role was given to somebody else. And I was the one conducting that meeting. I said, I'm very sorry about it, but we are very time conscious. But today is, a lesser fair kind of leadership. So that again, too, can we be more very circumspect in our recruitment processes? Who is to serve? How well is this person available at this time? Somebody might be good enough, but it's not available at this time. There's no need for you to give him a role to play. I just wish that, in selecting leaders, we can know that as well, because it's affecting a whole lot. This invoking stress is because of the recruitment process too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Area Director Paul. Our district director is here. I think he heard you. We also have the vision directors here. I know they've heard you, and you're also an area director. So I know your peers have heard, the club presidents as well. I think we need to raise the standards, like you say. Now, Dr. Abayomi, DTM, we're going to quickly move into another segment of this program, which consists of us giving affirmations and you responding what you believe in a sentence or two, since we have to close. So I'll give you an affirmation from a member and you will tell us if you agree or disagree with the statement. So the member says, I just want my mandate to end. I do not want to engage in any fights, even those related to performance. Would you agree that in life, one has to choose their fight? Do you agree or not?
Is that for me to answer?
Yes.
Okay.
As a leader, you need to choose your fights in a sentence, because we need to go.
Please come again. Please come
I just
again.
want my mandate to end, and I do not want to engage in any fights.
You are the leader now.
Yes, I don't want to engage in any fights, even those related to people not doing what they're supposed to do. Would you agree with me that in life, one has to choose their fights?
Ultimately, you have to choose your fight. But the question now is, what should be your choice? Your choice should ideally be that which will further the cause of the organization and further your own cause and maturing and growth.
Okay, thank you. Second affirmation, I am not paid for my Toastmasters leadership. Solving team members' problem and babysitting is stressful, and I don't think I have much time for that. Won't you agree with me?
I will not agree with you because you voluntarily came into Toastmasters, and Toastmasters has the guiding principles well spelled out. And you even make a promise each time you read the Toastmasters promise. You affirm so many things which you are now going against. So that's my answer to that. You should strive. If you want to be a member of Toastmasters, strive to uphold what Toastmasters
Thank you.
expects of you.
The next affirmation is, in Toastmasters, there is much talk about creating a nurturing and positive environment. I think members are abusing of this culture and by becoming complacent, and this leads to dysfunctional teams, leading to very complicated conversations. Would you agree with me that that members are abusing the Toastmasters culture?
Oh, definitely. There are people who abuse it. They do things that they would not do elsewhere just because of the culture in Toastmasters. They may not be exerting themselves enough. So yes, they are abusing it, but they should not really.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Abayomi. Thank you for having accepted to respond to this sort of affirmations. And also thank you for the exchange, for having shared your experience with us. Like I mentioned at the beginning, you are a moving library. And when we have people like you around us, and people like you accept to come and spend 90 minutes sharing their experience to us, opening up their hearts to us and telling us and showing us the traps that are on the road on which they've already walked past, showing us the ropes. We have to take all the time. We have to do everything possible to ensure that we are attentive and we make the most of the time we are spending together. We are so grateful you are accepted to come today. We're so grateful of your time, and we know our members are leaving here today enriched and thankful of the time we have spent together. Nous avons fait feu de tout bois aujourd'hui pour écouter cette librairie, cette bibliothèque vivante qu'est le 10e Abayomi, et nous le disons merci. Merci d'être venu. Retrouvons-nous le mois prochain, même jour et à la même heure pour une autre édition des sessions mensuelles TLI du district central. Merci beaucoup et bonne soirée à tous.
Bonne soirée.
Thank you all. Thank you.